The desperate 911 call came from inside Michael Jackson's rented mansion. It was just before 12:30 p.m., June 25, 2009, in Los Angeles.
He's pumping his chest, but he's not responding to anything.
The morning sky was still dark when black vans crept up the winding road to Neverland Ranch. But this wasn't about the mansion, the carousel, or the zoo. No, today's target was the garage. That long-rumored chamber of secrets, whispered about in industry circles and conspiracy threads alike. Guarded by rusted fences and decades of silence, it had become legend, not location. And now, after 16 years, the moment of reckoning had arrived. 3 barriers of rusted chain link were sliced apart like paper, each cut sending sparks into the cold morning air. But it was the final door that truly stunned, the kind of steel slab you'd expect to guard a vault, not a garage. Techs in hazard gloves murmured in low tones. Estate reps stood frozen, gripping their clipboards like they held sacred codes. A breathless,
I have done all I could do. I told the truth, and I have faith the truth will prevail.
According to the police affidavit, Conrad Murray told detectives he'd been treating Michael Jackson for insomnia for weeks. He said he'd tried lots of other but that the pop star demanded propofol. On the day Conrad Murray said he gave Jackson 25 milligrams of it at 10:40.
Tension gripped everyone, as if history was about to breathe again. Then came the sound. Grinding, screeching, screaming metal. The garage door gave way inch by inch. It creaked and moaned like it had been sealed with secrets too heavy to bear. Each movement peeled back time, until finally, one last bolt dropped with a deafening clink. What followed was bone-deep silence. Not a word, not a breath, just the ominous weight of anticipation, hanging in the cold morning air. Inside, time stood still. The air was thick with dust, hanging like fog in a forgotten museum. Flashlight beams cut through the gloom, revealing relics frozen in place. This wasn't just a garage, it was a mausoleum of Michael Jackson's hidden world. And then, gasps. A pristine fleet of luxury cars, lined up like an exhibit, untouched by age. Above them, a gold-lettered plaque shimmered faintly in the beam. Drive your dreams, a phrase never spotted anywhere else on the property. This wasn't some eccentric billionaire's showroom. This was a vault, unknown even to those who handled Jackson's estate. According to insiders, Michael sealed this garage himself in the early 2000s. Biometric locks, handwritten codes, reinforced steel. It wasn't even on the property's original blueprint. Why hide it so completely? Was it a shrine to his passions? Or something much deeper? A last sanctuary, untouched by paparazzi lawsuits or betrayal. Front and center sat a turquoise, Rolls-Royce Corniche, shining like it just rolled out of a dream. A cassette still stuck in the stereo, labeled MJ Mix 2/3. Staffers say Michael would sit in that car for hours engine off, lost in his own vocals. Not rehearsals, not himself, behind a dusty Lamborghini Diablo, something even more shocking. A fireproof case holding a leather-bound notebook, sealed shut with a rusted clasp. And here's where it gets chilling. Longtime estate staff call it the passing journal, a cryptic book Jackson reportedly carried constantly in his final years, scribbled with lyrics, thoughts, and alarming warnings. Phrases like "they want me gone" and "watch the injections" appeared again and again. One page, dated just 2 weeks before his death, read, "No more rehearsals. They're planning something. The estate won't comment, but privately, even they seem rattled." For years, Michael Jackson's death was chalked up to one doctor, one overdose. But what if that's not the whole story? What if Jackson believed people were coming for him and built this garage as a final redoubt, a place beyond reach, where he could still be himself? In 2005, his world began crumbling. Trials, scandals, debt. But this space stayed untouched. Untouched by courts, untouched by critics, untouched by time. Why lock away luxury? Why hide music, memories, and fears behind steel and silence? One former bodyguard recalls Jackson's order, clearly, make it like Fort Knox. He wasn't afraid of thieves. He was afraid of people inside his own world. He kept asking, can this be hacked? Can it be watched remotely? The paranoia wasn't about strangers, it was about trust collapsing from within, a haunting reflection of how isolated he truly was. And then came one final twist. Tucked beneath a pile of tour merch, a blueprint turned, matched to any official layout. Some say it hints at an underground extension of the garage. Others claim it's a long-abandoned plan for a bunker Jackson wanted built after 9/11s. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. The king of pop was scared, obsessed with control, convinced that even his own sanctuary might not be enough to save him. Now that the passing journal has been recovered, it's reportedly locked away again. Its pages, ever revealed, might rewrite the end of Jackson's story. But until then, whispers continue to swirl. Was this garage just a vault of extravagance? Or was it the last real trace of Michael's true voice, the man behind the Myth desperately trying to protect himself from a world that couldn't stop watching. A technician involved in the initial scans of the garage's contents claims he saw names written in Jackson's infamous passing journal, some of them still active, still thriving in the entertainment industry. Another source swears the final pages point to financial deceit, that Jackson had signed away key rights while under mental fog, unaware of what he was losing in, that he was gearing up to expose it all after the tour. And not just any tour, this is his legendary comeback that never happened. If that's true, and he was silenced before speaking, the question becomes haunting: who stood to gain from his silence? No one's saying this is definitive proof, but it paints a chilling picture, especially now, as Jackson's estate is back in the headlines over a multi-million-dollar deal selling off a chunk of his music catalog to Sony, a deal that, according to insiders, Michael would have never approved. Is it just odd timing, or a much bigger machine at work? Some Jackson family members believe Michael's death wasn't a tragic accident, it was surgical, deliberate, a takedown by people who had everything to gain. And if that's true, this garage might be the first visible crack in a long-hidden conspiracy. We've all heard the stories: Jackson's dependence on pain meds, the canceled Dangerous tour, the mounting pressure. But if you believe the entries in that journal, he graduated from medication to anesthesia propofol for one reason: sleep. Not escape, not euphoria, just to sleep. Yet people around him allegedly fed that dependency. So when we stare into the gleam of those luxury cars, or read those scribbled pages, one question echoes louder than ever: what was Michael Jackson really running from, and did he leave behind the breadcrumbs for us to finally understand? Beneath the glitter, something else lingered like a ghost: debt, crushing, endless debt. At the time of his passing, Michael owed more than $500 million, some of it racking up interest so fast it looked like a trap. The same man who once moonwalked through Super Bowls and bought the Beatles catalog was now barely staying afloat. So maybe this garage wasn't just a personal vault, maybe it was a financial ark, a last-ditch effort to hide what couldn't be seized. A quiet battlefield between what he built and what others tried to strip from him. Some advisors close to the estate now whisper that Jackson was preparing for financial collapse, that this secret garage was more than just nostalgia, it was strategy. The turquoise Corniche, tied to recordings and personal rituals, could fetch millions on its own. Add rumored master tapes, unreleased footage, handwritten lyrics, even alleged patents filed under shell companies, and the vault becomes something much bigger. Was it insurance, a defiance stash, a coded rebellion against the vultures he believed were stealing his empire out from under him? Because here's the wound reopening. In real time, betrayal from within. Not just tabloids or paparazzi, but the people closest to him. Dr. Conrad Murray was the name pinned to his final moment, but investigators say he wasn't alone. Former assistants, security, even managers have been whispered about in connection to manipulation, mismanagement, and what one former agent chillingly called willful enabling. They fed his need for control while quietly eroding his ability to use it. They stood close enough to be trusted, but far enough to dodge the fallout. Then comes one of the strangest stories yet. For years, insiders whispered about a prototype vehicle, something Michael Jackson personally helped design with an unnamed tech firm, a futuristic electric concept car. Custom biometric access, built-in audio sequencing. Some called it the EV Ghost. And here's the kicker: it vanished. Gone, just weeks after his death. One former staffer says Jackson was obsessed with futuristic travel and had poured money into secret experimental designs. If that car existed, it wasn't just a collectible. It was intellectual property worth tens of millions. But where is it now? That question has no answer. And it only gets murkier when you realize how chaotic Jackson's estate was after his death. Multiple handlers, sealed files, and a property inventory war that no one wants to talk about. It's entirely possible that valuable items were taken, sold off, or disappeared into private hands before anyone could account for them. Maybe that car was one of them. Maybe it's still out there, or maybe someone made sure it never surfaced again. The Jackson estate has never officially confirmed the existence of a prototype vehicle, but insiders insist that several pages of the garage inventory remain under seal, labeled as sensitive holdings. One LA-based attorney who once worked with the estate allegedly walked away after raising concerns about what he described as unlogged removals. So if this mystery car really did exist, did it vanish before the vault was even opened? And if so, who took it? Why was it removed? And who's profiting from the silence? Jackson's relationship with propofol, the powerful anesthetic found at his home, was chilling. Administered only in hospital settings, it was reportedly used on him as a sleeping aid. They called it the milk of amnesia, but Jackson used it constantly. He was warned it could kill him, yet the system kept feeding it to him. That wasn't just negligence, it was surrender. And in the final months of his life, Jackson wasn't just clinging to sleep, he was clinging to control. His body, his art, his legacy all slipping through his fingers. Rehearsal footage from the doomed This Is It tour shows a man frail, fatigued but still obsessively detailed, still running lighting cues, still chasing perfection. But behind closed doors, he was leaving a trail. Notes stuffed in drawers, scribbled messages in the margins of contracts, journal entries, reading, system takeover. They want my songs, not me. What system was he talking about? The music industry, his legal handlers, or the elite machine that surrounds vulnerable icons then swallows them whole? Even his daughter, Paris Jackson, once told Rolling Stone, it was a setup. LaToya Jackson, too, said Michael warned her that people were going to silence him for his catalog. Then there's that now infamous note, they are trying to end me. This wasn't paranoia in isolation. These were signals sent from within a house that had become a prison. A man who realized his assets were worth more than his breath. And when we look back at that hidden garage, it starts to resemble something more than a memory vault. It starts to look like a message. So what exactly was that garage? A chrome-drenched shrine, a millionaire's panic room, or the only place where Jackson still owned the narrative? Drive your dreams. That phrase, written in gold above the cars, now hits different. It's no longer just motivational fluff. It reads like desperation, like a last whisper to himself in a world that stripped him of everything: control, dignity, agency. Outside that garage, Michael Jackson was an empire under siege. Inside, he was just a creator begging to preserve the one piece of himself still untouched, because behind the lights and lawsuits, there was deeper decay, endless civil battles, crumbling trust, emotional collapse. Drive your dreams could just as easily be read as a cruel joke, a command issued to a man whose dreams were now choking on red tape. Experts who've examined the garage describe it as a psychological paradox, a temple of motion, frozen in time. Luxury cars, unused. Notes unread. Could it be that the phrase became less of a mantra and more of a ghost haunting him in silence? There's even the theory that drive your dreams wasn't meant for us at all. That it was a whisper from a younger Michael, the boy who once sang for escape, not applause. If that phrase meant movement, then maybe locking the garage was his quiet way of saying movement was no longer possible. He sealed his vision, not to bury it but to protect it. And maybe, just maybe, he hoped someone one day would find it and finally understand what he couldn't say out loud. Now that we've seen inside, we're left with questions that may never be answered. Was this the escape pod of a genius under siege? Or a final chess move by a man who believed he was being hunted? Is it a collection of creative power or the case file of an empire gutted from within? And most important of all, was Michael Jackson trying to warn us before the curtain fell? What do you think? Was this garage Jackson's buried treasure, or the key to devastating secrets he knew would outlive him? Drop your theory in the comments. We're listening.